Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, and I know what you're thinking. Hey, you already went over this 1962 Lincoln Continental Convertible from Bring a Trailer. The answer is yes, I did. However, towards the end, it had dawned on me, even though it was right here, that it had mentioned the car is said to have been first sold in Fort Worth, Texas, and it was purchased by the seller on BAT, Bring a Trailer, in September 2021. So I want to go over a couple of things and draw some comparisons. This car, in fact, did sell a little over 6 months ago, September 2021, and I was talking to my homie, my friend, Tony Boss Bolin, and he was like, yeah, that was the car that sold a year ago, and I pulled this up when I was on the phone with him, and I was like, yep, sure enough, I do remember these photos. The reason why I wanted to kind of show this is, if you look, it sold for $95,000, September 2021, and we know from doing this review the other day, give or take, a little over half a year goes by, the person sells it for $80,000, so $15,000 loss. And I know oftentimes people ask, like, hey, what's a good price for these cars, so on and so forth. When we went through the photos in the listing for the $80,000 sale, pretty much, I look at it and say, man, it is a super nice car. Everything isn't, 100% original, because, we talked about the kick panels and the speaker pods. That's very, very minor stuff. These things can easily be just taken out. And if you don't want that kind of look in your car. But I wanted to just kind of talk about, why would someone lose, or potentially how could someone lose $15,000 in, just over a half a year? So if you look at the photos and the presentation from before, they're very, very good. You're in front of this real nice kind of modern garage. You can see how nice the paint looks. It has a Virginia tag on it, top up, top down, photos, doors open, and I'm going to hit escape here. When you scroll down here on Bring a Trailer, it'll show you all these different photos. And then on the other listing, so if we jump over here and you scroll down, the thing that I liked about it was, one, they had the video link, which was the same video, so we kind of went through that. But when you scroll down here, look at how many photos they have. This is on the $80,000 sale, and there's just a ton, right? They did a pretty good job here too, presenting the car. They had the receipts and things like that from the different key vendors, top up, top down, engine bay, things like that. Here, they didn't really have as many, and it seems like I had went over this car maybe in the past. I've looked at so many of these now. It didn't seem like it had as many photos underneath it, but regardless, it's still sold for, just under $100K, which is a lot, right? So the difference is that I think the presentation was better on the $80,000 sale. To me, I often say this, and I know some people, many probably agree, some don't, but when you start getting into that six-figure number, whether you're on an auction site like this, or you're at an auction where it's Mecum or Barrett Jackson, when you get to that six-figure number, the car really has to distinguish itself, right? So if you're like kind of a purist and you want a car like this that has the history, that has the documentation, that has the originality look, you can look at this car and tell it's a nice car, whether you're looking at this or this. We've established that. They've really, really presented this car very nicely. But when you get to that six-figure number, it gets very, very tough to sell, because, a lot of folks that may not have that kind of money, they're going, well, I saw one sell for, $30,000 not too long ago and things like that. And I've talked a lot about how you can buy a car for cheaper, but when you start getting into a Lincoln that, quote, needs everything, you're going to end up spending on the back end, whether you do it with someone that's reputable, that knows these cars inside and out, or someone that's like, sure, I'm a mechanic, I can tinker around and we'll figure it out, depending on where you live. You're going to spend a lot of money. I think the biggest thing with this car is that it's sold for a high number. The person didn't keep it that long, and this is the way Lincolns will go. You'll see them sell for $100 grand, and then then you won't see that many of those type of numbers being pulled in. Now, I had mentioned Joe at Weld County Customs, how he had sold that Resto Mod car for a lot of money, over $700 grand with the fees. Okay. And some go, wow, well, how can that one sell for so much? I mean, that was like a one-of-one car. I mean, just unbelievable. You could eat off the engine bay. You could eat off underneath it. I mean, it was such a nice car. But when you look at the guys, like I mentioned, Ollie, that sells the Isotope wheels, I often compare the time when he was selling a 64, 65, a stock car, a real nice one that, had the stock engine and was customized, and it sold for about a little over $100 grand. And then he had a custom one that was coyote swapped, and it sold for like 10 grand more. That is often the comparison, where these cars typically, in my estimation, they have sold for more if they're not customized. We're starting to see that little bit of a shift because Ollie sold I forget what it was, but with this last round of like high dollar sales, it might have been the same one that Joe was at with the Weld County Customs. I think Ollie sold one that was above 300 grand, right? So we're starting to see a little bit of a shift where, like this car here, someone that's always wanted these and someone that has the money, they're easily going to shell out, that 60 to 100 grand price, no problem. Now, I don't know why this person kept it for a short amount of time. Did they think that they were just going to flip it and make 25, 30 grand? I don't know. But we are seeing a little bit of a shift where the custom cars that are done right are bringing in some real nice money. Now, this one, of course, is not a custom car, but if you had bought this car for 80 grand about 6 months ago, and then you said, hey, I don't have anywhere to store it, I want to just flip it, I want to liquidate it, and you sell it for a $15,000 loss, it kind of makes you scratch your head and go, were you just buying it for, to make the money on it? So I'm curious to see what you guys think. I want to look at some of the comments as well, but I mean, if you bought this car for 95 in September last year, would you have kept and enjoyed it and driven it? What do you think the motivation was to sell it? Just to, dump it, liquidate it? Looking back here, they did say 15-inch steel wheels, and for some reason, I remember going over this one. Maybe it was just when I reviewed it personally, but we know, and I think the guy over here, there was a photo where the person actually had pulled out a measuring tape and was measuring the hubcaps, the wheel covers, and it might have been over here. But what's funny is this earlier 60s, they were actually 14-inch wheels. So, those are little minor things that you'll see in these listings that people will sometimes kind of get wrong. Because, I mean, you'd think, many of us are used to 15-inch wheels. The Continentals offer were service records dating back to 91, the clean Virginia title and stuff. So that was kind of some of the stuff there. But, like, let's look at some of the comments. Nice car. Someone was talking about the Lincoln Forum, which this is the website I always talk about, the lincolnforum.net, which is true. No ads or spam, just decades of experience. Lots of good info there. Of course, Suicide Slabs on Facebook. We have our Lincoln Addict group. You're always going to have people coming here. They like to comment on this stuff. 61, 62, pretty close. A few minor. 63 is quite different. People like to kind of come in here. They love these cars, so people like to talk about them. And, here, again, you get someone, it's like you think you could kind of Google, but people just like kind of, going back and forth in here and stuff. But, yeah, let me know what you think. Were you surprised to know that this car did, in fact, sell for $15,000 more 6 months ago? Do you think it's worth that dollar amount? Do you think this $80,000 guy, whoever bought it, is he just going to hang on to it? I would think if you hang on to this car for 5 or 10 years, I would see the market continuing to go up, because as more are customized, and remember, they didn't make a lot of these convertibles, just over 3,000 each year. between 3,000 and 3,500. So to me, as more and more of the cars are customized, and I hear more of these every day now, I've established this. You guys know I like custom cars. I've been into that stuff, but I think there is at least in my mind, when you get a car this nice, that's this just perfect, I have a hard time, even me personally, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, going, hey, I'm going to blow this thing apart, swap the engine, tear it down, do a roadster chassis, whatever, right? I mean, the craziest stuff. And we've seen all that, even though they're unibody cars. But it's getting harder and harder for me to say, hey, let's do all that. So I do think as these cars are continuing to be customized, there will become a point, I don't know if it's in 10 or 20 or 30 years, where you think these cars are expensive now. What will the numbers be like? And I hope I'm around to be able to look at it then. I'm always curious, to know what that number is going to be. There's so many of my friends and so many people I know and so many people in the world that love Cadillacs, right? The 59s are exploding. Same thing with the 59 Impalas. But if you look at Cadillacs in general, in the 60s, they made a lot more of those Cadillacs, especially the convertibles, than they did these cars. So I'm, like I said, always curious to see what the future holds. Will these non-customized cars continue to just go up in value? I think that they will. And, we'll have to see. But a little bit of a comparison between two sales just over 6 months apart. Thanks for the support. If you get a chance, please check out Lincoln Addict Podcast via any podcast app, including on the Apple iPhone. You can go to the pre-installed purple podcasts app and search Lincoln Addict. Boom, hit follow and or subscribe. It's free. And there's about 23, 24 episodes out there. I'm trying to stay on course of doing one every 2 weeks or bi-weekly. So check them out. They also, some of the recent ones have batched over to YouTube, so you can listen there as well. Thanks for all the support. Take care. ODB, we out of here.